Eric. He's on vacation. We've got Brody going out to the live final for FanDuel. So it's just going to be me talking through with you guys. Say what's up when you get on in the room. I hate to do shows on my own. I'll give you my overall thoughts. Again, I'm always remind you guys the same thing. Bankroll management on these kinds of slates is very important, and taking weird risks is really important. And that is what I will be looking to do. So with that said, let's get right into what I'm playing and what I'm not. I think your main focus, as I mentioned on my earlier show, is going to be the Lakers and Memphis game, and I think that's the right thing to do. I think my favorite plays in order, I think I give LeBron a tiny bit of an edge over AD, but I like both of them. It's really close. It does seem like a good matchup for AD. I don't know size-wise how they're going to match up with him, and then it just doesn't quite work. On the other side, I think that Russell Westbrook is a good long shot play. The problem is because of the small slate, he's not going to be unowned, but it is a good pace game for him. So I feel like this could be a good spot for him. He looked pretty good the other night, especially in the second half. And I think the Lakers are starting to find themselves a little bit. I do like the Lakers to win this game. On the Memphis side, I think Jaren Jackson is going to be so popular that I think you want to try to fade him. Second of a back-to-back. We know there's foul trouble issues. He's going to have to be matched up with Davis. I really like him as a play. Don't get me wrong, but I think this is a better spot to fade than to play on DraftKings. That's my personal take there. I do like Dillon Brooks. I'll eat a little bit of that chalk, a little more comfortable, but at the same time, I played Dillon Brooks yesterday on the big slate. He's simply just gets into foul trouble early on so often, which kind of kills a little bit of that momentum, the flow. I still like him a lot in this matchup. I like Bane. This is my order. I'd go Brooks, Bane, Tyus Jones, Steven Adams, D'Anthony Melton, Steven Adams, then Jaren Jackson. I do love Jaren Jackson, but with the high ownership, and Brooks is going to have it too, I think I would try to be looking to get a little bit different in that way. Some of my other, the spend ups, if you can afford Jokic, I think makes perfect sense. It is a back-to-back, traveling and all that. I think I would lean on Monty Morris a little bit tonight. I'm going to be interested in that. I think he's going to have some ownership, but again, it's hard to get totally off the board in every spot. Just think he's a solid play, getting tons of run right now. Good matchup against San Antonio, pace, and as good as defenders as they might have on their team, they don't play good team defense. So the guards have been kind of lighting them up all season long. Your long shot plays would be Campazzo or Bones Highland for Denver. San Antonio is going to be, and pop in the questions, guys. I'm just going to go through my stuff, and then we'll talk about all your guys' thoughts. Derek White is going to be really popular. I'm fine with it, but I don't think it by any means it's a must. DeJounte Murray, unfortunately, is going to be owned because I like him as a pivot off of the LeBron AD range, but he's going to have the same ownership basically, and he's fine. He's a totally fine play. I'm probably going to fade Podol tonight. It's a tough matchup against Jokic. He's fine, but again, probably going to fade him. Doug McDermott is kind of an interesting tournament play. I think he's going to have his minutes. You're going to get Vassell back tonight, which is going to kill Lonnie Walker's, projection love. But at the same time, isn't this kind of when we should play Lonnie Walker? You got no ownership on Walker. And by the way, I don't mind if you want to play Vassell either. One of those two guys on DraftKings could end up being the difference maker for you. And I don't mind taking shots on either one of them. The problem is that they obviously do cut into each other, but still, we're going to have to find ways to get different. Speaking of ways of getting different, I like Jordan Clarkson on Utah as a way to get different. I like Mike Conley. I don't think it's that different. I sort of thought we might hear that maybe Utah would rest somebody on the back-to-back. Doesn't look like that's happening. Joe Ingles is interesting because he's 3,900, and it seems a little too cheap for me. So I am interested in Joe Ingles tonight. This is not my favorite game, but I do like Ingles anyway in it. On the other side, I think Danny Green is somebody we really should consider playing. When you get the low ownership, that's the only time. Low ownership, small slate, no obvious chalk. This is the time we should probably consider playing guys like Danny Green. So I think Danny Green is a strong tournament play. I think Seth Curry is a very strong tournament play. You look at what he's done lately. I mean, he flashes that ceiling. He can get you, 35 plus. He just put up 43 in the last game against Charlotte yesterday. And I think he's interesting. Now that, of course, you could say, hey, his dad grew up in Charlotte. Maybe he's taking more shots and all that stuff. But he was really efficient is really what it was about. More importantly, though, the usage was there, 22%. That's pretty solid for a guy who's as efficient as he is at 8 assists yesterday. I think that he's an interesting tournament play because I'm just looking for guys who won't be owned. So that's why he sort of stands out to me. Obviously, Embiid's a strong play always, but I don't think that against Gobert here, if everybody was going to get off it, he was going to be 10 or 15%, I'd be into it. But 20+%, maybe going to look the other way to try and get away from that. The other interesting one for Philly is Maxey in terms of no ownership. I think it's probably too thin, but I think there's a path there for him to get there. Now, I'm only mentioning it because you've got him at 63 on FanDuel. He's going to have some ownership on FanDuel, actually. Maybe at no ownership on DraftKings, he's a way we can get different. So with that, that's sort of my overall outlook of the slate. Core guys are going to be the Lakers, Memphis guys, and there's all different ways you can play them. And I'm going to get over and take a look at the questions now. Thoughts? What about Rudy Gay or Jeff Green as value? I think that's viable. I actually like that point, especially on the second of a back-to-back. Now, again, I sort of was assuming I don't see Jeff Green as value though. Like, I mean, what is his price? He's 4,800. Is that really value? And he's actually going to have ownership. I will choose to pass on Jeff Green at high ownership. And I mean, yeah, every now and then he might, make all of his shots or get a bunch of rebounds. But he had that one outlier game against Chicago the other day. Has been playing a lot of minutes. So you could take that shot. It's not what I'm doing, but I don't mind it at all. I think I would rather play a guy like Clarkson at the same price. Personally, and you're going to get similar ownership on both of them. And Clarkson, I think, is just going to get there more often. So I'll keep addressing some of these questions here that chat's bringing up. Good question though about the Rudy Gay one. Let's talk about Rudy Gay. So what can we expect from Rudy Gay? I've always had a hard time in DFS, but not on small slates, playing guys who don't play minutes really, don't play significant minutes. I think it's a little bit of a downgrade to Gay that Whiteside's playing, and Rudy Gay is going to be popular. Like, I mean, wouldn't we be better off playing Danny Green than Rudy Gay? And Danny Green at what, 1/10 the ownership of Rudy Gay, and a cheaper price tag? That makes sense to me. And Rudy Gay did play his season high of minutes, or basically tied for his season high of minutes last night in 22. But he's, completely logical play. Just again, not really getting crazy off the board with that one. But I mean, again, it's hard to get crazy off the board today, so I'm trying to just go for these other situations. I think Thad Young is an interesting question that just got brought up there. It is the second of a back-to-back again for them, but and while there's no Keldon Johnson, we do have Vassell, and they've got a lot of bodies. Thad Young is currently projecting for almost no minutes. I don't see why they need Thad Young in this game. He had a DNP CD last time out. Hasn't played more than 14 minutes in forever. I think that's a little too thin, but I like the idea. I just think it's a little too thin. I think I would lean more towards Vassell, more towards Lonnie Walker, those types of guys. That's what I would do personally. Let's see what else we got. And by the way, San Antonio was the last game. Just probably worth noting what I predicted yesterday and what ended up happening was really right. And I wish I would have stuck with more of just the late game build. Now the guys didn't all quite hammer it, but like I ended up with 15% of Nasir Little, which he was like 3% owned. Terrence Mann was a tremendous play, regardless of the fact he had 20 at halftime. They only ended up with like 25. But he was 4K and no one played him. He was starting for the Clippers with no Paul George. People aren't playing these late spots. So maybe, look, it's not like a way late island game. We probably will know everything by then. But don't be surprised if you see San Antonio even sit somebody else potentially, and that would open things up. So maybe playing a little bit more from that game than I currently have is not the worst idea in the world, but we probably will know in advance. Saying what's up to everybody else. X Factor James. Adam, what's up, man? Red Pill Al, what's up? Eubanks and Diop for me. Okay, so I like those questions. So I think that the Keats Beta Diop, so wouldn't we rather play guys who shoot the ball than play Diop? That's my only issue. Like, wouldn't we rather play Vassell or Lonnie Walker than Diop? That's my only reason why not to. Now, just the fact that those guys will actually shoot the ball and have some upside. He doesn't really do anything except for be on the court and play some defense. You're not getting what I think you need out of him. But there is upside in his minutes, so maybe it's not the worst idea. It's just not my favorite play. I would rather actually play Danny Green than Bates Diop. I know Danny Green's going to play some minutes. I know that they're going to, whatever. If hopefully it's the night where he makes those 4 or 5 threes. He's a guy in general we talk about as having no ceiling, but he's been in the 20s consistently lately, and I would take that today all day. I also think he has a lot of upside on his minutes, which are projected currently to be about 25. So that's my thoughts on that. Is Horton Tucker too deep to be digging off the wall? No, I think Horton Tucker is completely legitimate. I like that idea, and look, you're going to have some dud games because with LeBron, so just make sure you see who you play him with. But at the same time, like the Lakers, this is a premium spot. I actually really like this game. I think that I could hit the over. I think the Lakers are going to win the game, but I think that it's going to be a competitive game, and I think you're going to see, there's some guys with upside. I think Malik Monk and Carmelo are both firmly in play, but I don't mind the Horton Tucker play, and I think he's going to be owned too a little bit. He's pretty much in that 30 range, or sorry, in the 25 plus range projecting, so he's going to sort of get some ownership, and he can get 30, maybe a little bit higher with LeBron out there, but it is hard for him to see hitting the whole ceiling with the other three all playing. That's the only thing that concerns me about him. Danny Green locked for Sensei J. All right, man. I would encourage you, if you've got a bunch of lineups, maybe then you do want to mix in a little Bates Diop because he's going to be low owned as well. But overall, I definitely prefer Danny Green, and maybe mix in a little Lonnie Walker if you can get up to him, because I think that's kind of interesting. And I'm really questioning whether or not that some of these guys will be as low owned as they say, but I do think it's kind of interesting. And yeah, that's basically what I'm doing with this slate. I'm not playing a ton of lineups. I'm not targeting on FanDuel at all. There was no good tournaments today, so I just said not going to do it. So I'm just playing on DK today myself. So if there are any FanDuel related questions, I'm happy to answer them. But as soon as the questions dry up, I'm probably going to get out of here, because I don't think there's a whole lot to over talk through on this slate unless you guys bring up some questions. Oh, you did ask about Eubanks, and I think that's the interesting play for me. I think that Eubanks, who's projected to only play a few minutes. Now, what if, and this is a very legitimate what if Podol picks up 2 fouls in the first few minutes of the game? And we saw 15 minutes out of Eubanks yesterday. Eubanks, if he ends up somehow getting around 20 minutes, that could be a really, really strong play. So I love the long shot play of Drew Eubanks tonight. I can completely sign off on that one. Sort of fits a different mold of the Danny Green thing. He's active. He's out there and he's doing things. But also, not only do you get off some of the Podol chalk, you get a little bit of a different build by playing a guy like that. So I actually like that call. I think I would go with Eubanks because they will need the size to compete. And basically, right now you're sort of projecting that one of Eubanks or Podol will be guarding Jokic the whole time. And like I said, Podol could easily get into foul trouble. Could be struggling. Maybe they want some energy from Eubanks. There's a lot of ways it could go where Eubanks could end up being the beneficiary there. I don't think they're going to match up Thad Young with Jokic. So as many minutes as Jokic sees and more, you're probably going to see basically all of them divided between Podol and Eubanks. Now, obviously, Podol's projected to play about 3 times as many minutes. I think there's a chance that it could balance out a little bit, maybe be more like a 28-20 type of situation if that foul trouble happens. If Podol struggles with Jokic, then you can get the Eubanks run, and I think that's actually a really interesting long shot tournament play. When you spoke about maybe fading JJ Dixon ownership too, what are you looking at for a power forward? Anthony Davis, yeah. Anthony Davis. I think Royce O'Neal's fine. I think Devin Vassell is interesting, just because with that ownership, with that long shot cheap price, always can shoot himself into a big game. And you guys like Jeff Green. I think that's okay. It's not my favorite. Bogdanovich, Tobias Harris. These are the guys I have in order, just like that, basically. Another guy who we didn't mention much of and hasn't really gotten the benefit of the good run lately. Like Jeff Green played a bunch of minutes last night. Is there a chance JaMychal Green gets a little bit of an uptick in minutes? And even if he doesn't, the guy put up 24 fantasy points last night. Maybe JaMychal Green is another one you could throw into that Danny Green, JaMychal and Danny, and maybe a Bates Diop are the low-owned cheapos along with Eubanks that you could kind of consider. And I think those are all interesting. I also think Carmelo, and then if you do want to go Rudy Gay, I don't have a problem with it. It's just not what I'm doing. So that would be for my power forwards. I like DeJounte Murray. So the question is DeJounte Murray versus LeBron versus AD. They have a great matchup for LeBron and AD. Maybe not quite as good a matchup for Murray, but it is a good matchup. So I'm sort of struggling with that one. Kind of glad I'm not playing more lineups today, because that is sort of my big point, that I'm trying to figure out is like, what am I doing? Do I really want to play LeBron and AD together? And my current answer is yes. And I don't mind if you want to play Westbrook with AD also. I would probably not play Westbrook and LeBron together quite as much, but it could get there. Memphis plays fast, even without what's his name? Even without with Ja, they play fast. They've been playing well. And Desmond Bain, these guys can D'Anthony Melton, all these guys can really play. So I do want to get like 4 or 5 players from that game I like Steven Adams too as well. Against the Lakers, play with size. Now it might not work for Steven Adams because the Lakers have been smart, finally doing what they should have done a long time ago, and basically turning. We don't need anything from DeAndre Jordan. Dwight Howard, you can play 10 to 12 minutes, 14 minutes, whatever it is. We don't need these BS centers just to be out there for the sake of being out there. 80 man up, play center, and as long as that happens, the Lakers should play better, and there should be more fantasy points to go around. And also, it does probably take a tick down from Steven Adams. If you guys want a good bet, Steven Adams has won the highest percentage of tips in the NBA since in his career. He's won the most this year by a significant amount. So trying to bet on the jump ball or something like that, Steven Adams is a good bet. And instead, I'll say that maybe just take one of the starters. I would probably lean for a Bane or a Brooks to be the first scorer of the game. So those are some weird prop bets that I'm trying to catch on to. Other than that, guys, that's pretty much where I'm at. I don't really have a whole lot to get into. I don't have a ton of lineups going. I'm just sort of plugging away, just doing the regular stuff with mixing in the Danny Green. Now, if you play Danny Green with one of the other guys, with a JaMychal, with a Eubanks, with a Bates, that's how you could maybe win a large field tournament. You get 25 out of those guys, or maybe the occasional weird Danny Green game where, what did he put up, like 70 in a game last year or something when he made like 9 threes. Something weird like that happens and you could be on your way. I would lean Vassell / Walker and Danny Green, but I don't mind if you want to do it Eubanks or JaMychal as well. That's what I would be doing. Anyway, guys, I appreciate everybody being here. We love you at TrueDFS. We're glad to have you here every day. If there's no more questions, and I'll give you another minute to see if there's anything else, I will just be out of here, and we will. I'll be in Discord, and just make sure to @ me and address me when you're trying to ask questions. Sometimes I don't get there. I think Whiteside on the back-to-back is interesting. Yeah, I actually do think that's interesting. That's a good guy to bring up. Maybe that's a thing we could do tonight. I don't mind that one bit, actually. I think that's a really interesting call. Whiteside versus Eubanks is an interesting thing in itself. Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing you could do because Philly will play with size the entire game. So let's say, Gobert is projected to play 35 minutes. Let's just say, for argument's sake, he plays 32 minutes. It is a back-to-back. Unlikely if you have a blowout, but you never know. And if he plays 32 minutes, which is basically the general range that he's in, instead of the 35, then you might get like 15, 16 minutes of Whiteside. I think that's pretty interesting. I'm not opposed to that whatsoever. Embiid had the foul trouble last night, so you got a lot of Drummond minutes, but Drummond's price they just make basically unplayable. Somehow he still has gotten there a couple times lately, even with that unplayable price, or gotten close to there, I should say. But I really like the idea of Whiteside. I think that's a great large field GPP tournament play. That's pretty much it for me, guys. I wish everybody luck, and I will be in Discord, and my bets and everything are up on the site, and let's get them tonight. Good luck, everybody.